Hi friends, welcome back to my channel Modern Quantity Surveyor Key Skills to Have. We are going to continue on the same health and safety competency and talk about workplace safety. A place of work is a physical location where general work-related activity is undertaken as opposed to a workplace which is defined as the actual point where the work is executed, example a desk, a plant room, a confined space, or visit to a premises or construction site. For RICS members, their place of work it could be a very relatively low-risk environment such as an office or locations which present differing levels of health and safety risk. For example, at, on, or near other premises such as residential properties, estates, remote field construction, demolition, refurbishment sites, industrial sites, shopping centers, roads, near or over water, oil, or other drilling rigs. It's also sometimes the case that the car or other vehicle may be a regular place of work if it is used for the execution of work activities. But in the UK, road traffic accidents or collisions have been identified as one of the highest work-related causes of serious and fatal injuries suffered by employees while at work. So, each individual's perception of their place of work and subsequently their behavior will differ depending on their competence within that location and the attendant risks and responsibilities. Newcomers on site who are exposed to new environments attract significantly greater risk of harm than those who already have a robust knowledge and understanding of that environment. That's because the newcomer is not fully comprehending the inherent risks in the new environment and the procedures to manage them effectively. That's why they need comprehensive induction training. Conversely, it is recognized that individuals who are extremely familiar with the environments can also become complacent and fail to maintain appropriate vigilance. Also, we need to understand any potential enhancement of risk due to physical ability, age, culture, language, or other individual and personal circumstances and abilities. While considering the listed perceptions and behaviors, this should not lead to discrimination or perceived discrimination. It's important to recognize that although a place of work may have had a benign risk profile under one set of circumstances, it may be very different under other circumstances. For example, driving a car for a short distance on a bright summer's day compared to driving a long distance in the dark while snow falls, or a development site during the early stages of construction compared with the same site once the work has been completed and is open for occupation. Well, besides the immediate physical characteristics, geographical location, the country the place of work is in, and therefore the prevailing jurisdiction has an effect on the legal requirements for the provision of health and safety management. For example, rules on building construction are different if a building is to be erected in an earthquake zone, and rules for working in areas at risk of flooding may be different to those where there is no such inherent risk. Also, there are many different national rules and regulations regarding the standards required to maintain safe use of utilities and operation of equipment, such as supply of electricity, gas, water, AC, plant, heating, boilers, etc. And also there are wide variations internationally for the management of fire risk, the use and disposal of deleterious materials like asbestos, as well as clinical and other inherently riskier waste materials. Historical use. If the place of work is located on ground that has been used before, it's worth establishing whether any potential contamination or similar matters of relevance remain from past usage. Immediate locality. Consideration should be also given to the other inhabitants or occupants of the property or those in its immediate surroundings. Example, could they be hostile to the presence of the RICS member? This is particularly important when the RICS member may be lone working and dealing with cultural differences, or perhaps animals or unfriendly occupants. Adjacent land use and neighbors' work activities and other potential hazards may present additional risks to the place of work. For example, if there are government buildings, military establishments, major transport hubs, agricultural or construction equipment, or signature buildings or local landmarks, these all attract a greater threat of civil disturbance or terrorism. Some will add other risks such as excessive noise from planes, trains, large volumes of people like well-attended entertainment venues, or geological issues such as risk of flooding due to proximity of rivers or ineffective local drainage. It is necessary to identify the risks of working at or in or on a particular place of work. It's also important that information considering the risks and safe methods of managing them is provided to all those who may be affected, and this can include visitors, contractors, clients, and the general public. Careful selection of appropriately competent person and appropriate induction process before starting work at the location is important. Also, for example, in office work, you need to do assessment of the desk and computer arrangements so that employees avoid repetitive strain injuries. And also, you have to consider noise, dust, light, dangerous atmospheres, hazardous materials, and areas of restricted access. If the workplace is an ancient structure or is of significant age, consider the structural stability of all the elements with greater care, especially if the general public have access. Now, there are some common requirements at the places of work, and you must be knowing very well, especially if you work on the site. Everyone needs to be made sure they are comfortable and they are able to productively work in the construction site. In the work site, these kind of matters are called as workplace environment or welfare. So, some of the basic needs at work include providing toilet facilities, appropriate for the number of personnel and with regard to the number of men and women, those who may have limited mobility, access to clean and safe drinking water, appropriate control over temperature such that the extreme temperatures are avoided like too hot or too cold, appropriate replacement of fresh air, adequate lighting, like the natural light should not be too bright on the surfaces on desks and computer screens that they reflect too much and cause discomfort, appropriate arrangements for emergency like first aid provision, and appropriately trained personnel to administer it, and arrangement to detect dangerous situations and alert everyone, evacuate personnel to a place of safety. Also provide a proper storage for the files and clothing like hats, coats, and also place to dry wet work clothes, overalls, PPE, as well as to provide an area safe and free from hazards, where the people can eat, drink, and take rest breaks. In particular to the emergency arrangements, it's important to have measures to provide proper procedures so that employees can be evacuated to a place of safety in the event of an emergency. Also, when RICS member is visiting any premises or site, they make themselves fully aware of the emergency arrangements in place before or on arrival, such as the emergency assembly points. And what is appropriate and necessary for each location depends on the specific threats to the safety of the people and property at that location. Now, it's worth considering that some emergency may affect the RICS regulated firm and employees for a long time after the initial event. For example, if the building is burned by fire, damaged by high winds, hurricanes, is flooded, or contaminated like with Legionella in the water system, it may take weeks, months, or years to relocate. If anyone is hurt or killed in the incident, this will affect the people as well as have an impact on the RICS regulated firm's reputation. And the most common major threat in built environment is fire, and resilience of buildings to fire, smoke, and similar catastrophic events differ greatly depending on the structure and compartmentalization of the building. So there is a moral responsibility for occupiers of building to undertake assessment of the fire risk in the occupied premises and also share the information with the affected occupiers. It's often useful to include provision of appropriate detection like heat, smoke, carbon monoxide or gas, and also prevention procedures like inspection routines, removal of combustible materials if they have the potential for explosion or generation of toxic fumes or dust, and this also includes storage of fuels such as gas cylinders, oil, gasoline. Then consider the extinguishing agents like fire extinguishing systems like handheld sprinklers or inner gas, provide appropriate alarms like sirens, sounds, and also like emergency lighting to ensure alarms can be heard and seen in all locations. And lighting should be sufficient in the event of main power loss. Maintenance of building fabric also requires use and provision of equipments like mupes, scissor lifts, cherry pickers, or erection of temporary scaffolds to gain the access to parts of the structure. Access equipment has to be maintained, inspected, operated by a competent person for safety before obtaining for use. Now, fixed equipment is used especially for high-rise buildings for the cleaning of the cladding, glazing, external surfaces, and may include cradles, suspended or tracked specialist equipment housed at high level or roof level, and gantries, fixed ladders, and track ladders. So, all this plant and equipment should be subject to regular inspections and should be carried out by competent persons with written reports or records maintained, kept in good condition, and where appropriate, worn, damaged, or defective components should be replaced. Finally, wisely, therefore, use a common sense approach to safety. This would include being diligent in following local safety regulations. Doing this can go a long way toward making the workplace safer. It can also be said that the attitude we have toward life, work, and leisure time can have an effect on what sort of work we choose and our attitude towards safety. So friends, learn at least one competency a week. Are you ready? Please subscribe to my channel Modern Quantity